Bonjour, bonjour, on est niveau 1. On va continuer la discussion du chapitre 7, les vêtements. Okay, so where we left off was with basic vocabulary, and I'm going to look at Exprimons-nous now, and then I'm going to get into some things that this part of the chapter leaves out, and later on we'll discuss how to make some additional conversation, asking questions, describing outfits in general. Okay, so with Exprimons-nous, this is on page, à la page 223, Exprimons-nous. Okay, so the first thing that you'll see in the blue box asking this question is the scenario that they're setting up here is a scenario between a shopkeeper and a client, or a clerk at a shop and a client. And I want you to remember with this chapter, like with food, you'll be defaulting to formal with the clerk-client interaction, unless, of course, the person working in the store at the time that you're there is a friend of yours. You're familiar with each other. Otherwise, unless you're imagining that very specific scenario, we're going to be defaulting to formal, culturally appropriate formal. Okay, so you'll be using vous. And when you think about if you're imagining yourself in the role of the shopkeeper, you're using vous for the client. If you're imagining yourself in the role of the client, you're using vous for the shopkeeper. Okay? And this first phrase, rather than je peux vous aider, I would like this to be, updated a little bit to puis-je vous aider? Okay, so one of the first things that you learned was puis-je aller aux toilettes? Puis-je aller da-da-da-da? So puis-je aller to any given location. I want you to take the puis-je and use that for this scenario. And instead of je peux vous aider, you're going to have puis-je vous aider? Okay, puis-je vous aider? Puis-je vous aider? It flows much better. It's much more. It's much quicker to say, and it's much more natural and quotidien. It's what you would actually hear if you go into a shop, and the person's asking you for help. It's not going to be je peux vous aider. Okay? They do it here like this for your level. They're giving you a level 1 type structure, but you can ignore it. You're just fine saying puis-je vous aider because that's what you would actually hear. Okay? And that's what I would prefer. What you would actually do rather than something forced for your level. Okay, the rest of this Exprimons-nous is fine. Asking for help. So after you've been greeted, you might hear something like, well, before the greeting, you might hear something like, bienvenue chez something something for the name of the shop. Bienvenue chez Bougie. Okay? And then they might say, puis-je vous aider? And you can respond, je voudrais quelque chose pour. So I'm searching for something for, okay? And then the person. Here, je voudrais quelque chose pour ma mère. Je voudrais quelque chose pour mon père. Okay? Je voudrais quelque chose pour ma sœur. Demain, c'est l'anniversaire de ma sœur. Okay? So I'm looking for something for my sister. Tomorrow's her birthday. Je cherche un pull pour mettre avec se gêne. Okay? Je cherche un pull pour porter avec se gêne. Okay, so the person already has some jeans and they're looking for a sweater to go with them. So you're introduced to two words. They're kind of glossed over. I'm going to flesh porter specifically out. So porter is to wear. Mettre is to put on, to go with. Okay? Je peux essayer le chemisier. Here you can also switch the je peux to puis-je essayer le chemisier. Puis-je essayer le chemisier. Okay? Rather than je peux essayer le chemisier. There's a hard stop between the peut and the essayer, which is, it doesn't flow very nicely. But if you switch it to puis-je essayer le chemisier, the end of the e sound at the end of the je flows really nicely into e for essayer. Puis-je essayer le chemisier? Okay. Vous avez la veste en vert en caron. So the number that's at the end of this phrase here, caron, is the size. Okay? Here, the last one, non merci, je regarde. So this is, no, I don't need help, I'm just looking. Okay? The question issued from the clerk or shopkeeper, quelle taille, quelle pointure. Quelle taille is size for clothing. Quelle pointure is size exclusively for shoes. Exclusively for shoes. And then they finish, faites-vous. Quelle taille faites-vous? What size do you take? Quelle taille faites-vous? What size do you take? Quelle pointure faites-vous? Quelle pointure faites-vous? What shoe size do you take? And so here, for taille, you can use, like with the vest example, je fais du 40. Here you're given the example, je fais du 38. Okay, so in shoes, probably not 38. Je fais du 10. Okay, je fais du 11. So je fais du, and then the number, and that's your size. Or you can use your adjective descriptions. Je fais du large, je fais du petit. Okay. And you can petite, depending on gender. Okay, so let's look at a couple of things that I think this vocabulary section of the chapter leaves out. First of all would be the word for clothing by itself. So the chapter about clothing doesn't have the word for clothes, and that is les vêtements. Les vêtements. This is clothes. Okay, and I've included a little slang word for clothes up here, les fringues. Les fringues. Don't confuse it with les flingues. Flingue is guns, fringue is clothes. Okay, so this R here. If it's spelled with an L, that's guns. With an R, this is clothes. Les fringues, and that's slang for clothes. Okay, so the verb that I mentioned, the first one, porter, I'm going to focus on porter more for this chapter. It's the more useful of the two, between porter and mettre. Porter will be more useful. Je porte, tu portes, il, elle, on porte, nous portons, vous portez, il, elle porte. Don't say the ENT. Write the ENT, don't say the ENT. A couple of things that are left out of the clothing vocabulary itself. Again, une veste is a jacket, but a vest, okay, we're going to use the word gilet as the French word for a vest like what I wear. For shoes, there are other kinds of shoes. So you have des chaussures, basic shoes, des bottes, boots. There are also tini, like tennis shoes, basket, and like basketball shoes, but this isn't exclusively like your Air Force Ones. This can also be your Converse, Vans, okay? You can use baskets for these as well. And talon use this for heels, talon. Just like talons, like a bird of prey, a hawk or an eagle, there's that bit at the back, okay, if that visualization helps you remember. So heels are talons. You've been given a couple of words for hats, un chapeau, un casquette. I'm going to introduce un bandeau as this is a headband, okay, and barret for this is just a beret, like stereotypical French hat, beret, and chouchoute. Chouchoute, this is scrunchie, and so you can have small scrunchies, large scrunchies, big decorative scrunchies, chouchoute. There's a masculine version, chouchou, but chouchoute is the feminine one and the one I've heard more often, and chouchoute is fun to say. So chouchoute for scrunchie. Other things that I think are relevant to this chapter are words about fashion in general. So mode is feminine, and this is style or fashion. Motif, masculine, and this is pattern. Forme is feminine, this is shape. Thème, this is masculine, and it's theme. Okay? And adjectives to describe something. You'll be given descriptions in the next Exprimons-nous, but we'll flesh some out here. Laid. Extra E's and S's were appropriate for feminines and plurals. Laid is ugly. Moche is also ugly. Belle is beautiful. Beau is masculine beauty. Jolie is pretty. Okay? Extra E's and S's where appropriate for feminines and plurals. Laid, moche, belle, beau, jolie. So that fleshes the vocabulary out a little more. We'll continue with the next Exprimons-nous. I'll get into other ways to discuss, how to pose questions, conversations, and lastly, we'll look at the grammar in this chapter is demonstrative adjectives, and I'll explain how those work. Alors, on va continuer avec partie 3. Merci bien.